Universal basic income is the solution to all of our problems. Not really, but a lot of them. Today, I'm going to be talking about income inequality and how the American dream can become more of a possibility for many. This is not a dream, it's a possibility. Let me explain why. First off, I want to talk about what I'm exactly talking about when I'm thinking about universal basic income. If you clicked on this video, you've probably heard of Andrew Yang's idea to give every American $1,000 a month just for existing. I believe in something a little bit different, but with the same principles. I believe that every American adult making below a certain relatively high threshold, for example, $35,000 a year, should be entitled to $1,000 a month, no strings attached. Now, this is the starting point where there are a lot of topics to get into, and the best way would be to sit down with each and every one of you and have an exhausting discussion about every question that comes to your mind. Sadly, I don't have the time to do that. But if you do have a question that doesn't come up in this video, I encourage you to take it to the comments. I will be there. First, I want to get to the question that comes up first almost all the time. Who is going to pay for it? The answer to that question is simpler than you would imagine. There are a lot of ways. For my proposal, 50% of American adults will be eligible for the program. That's about 100 million people. If each given $12,000 a year, we're looking at $1.2 trillion a year going straight into the pockets of Americans. This feels like quite a lot of money to be giving away yearly, but I would like to bring up a very important part of recent history. The stimulus checks given to all Americans by Donald Trump and Joe Biden. These policies came into effect in an unprecedented time. People were out of work and had no option to go back. Trump's stimulus accounted for $3.1 trillion of direct relief to American citizens, while Biden's accounted for $1.9 trillion. These numbers are both higher than my proposal, but they're important to talk about because their impacts can be expected from a similar plan such as mine. There's a really easy conclusion to draw from all this. That's that the stimulus caused all the inflation. After all, we see unprecedented inflation just after giving away $5 trillion in just over a year and a half. The correlation seems obvious. It seems obvious until it doesn't. It's unclear how much exactly the stimulus impacted inflation, but the consensus seems to be not that much. So many factors are at play in our new economy relatively post-pandemic. As the Biden administration most accurately examines, inflation is a global issue more highly impacted by supply chain issues and the Russia-Ukraine war than by any stimulus checks that may have gone out. Despite this, the stimulus impact is not negligible. But any impact it does have comes through the means by which the government attained the money that it was giving away. See, the US government got $5 trillion to give away, some to people, some to schools, some to other agencies, etc., by selling bonds. They made a bet on America's future and took the money from that loan and gave it to those who needed it most. Should the US continue to grow at this rate, it'll have nothing to worry about in terms of paying those loans off. So, the stimulus contributed to US inflation, but we don't know exactly how much. The main culprit is the global supply chain. People could not work, so goods became more scarce, making them more expensive. So the consumer had to pay more for them, making the dollars they used to pay for them worth less than they were pre-pandemic. So no, inflation is not just the fault of the stimulus, but this is without mentioning that there's a way to avoid attaining this money by selling bonds. The answer is to take it out of the taxpayer's pocket. This is what will cause hellfire in the minds of the public, and the biggest hurdle that this idea will have to get over if it ever wishes to become a reality. In an all-right world, more bonds could be sold, but that simply perpetuates the same drastic income inequality that we all know and love. Currently, 10% of households in the US hoard 68% of the total US GDP. The top 1% individually holds nearly a third. The bottom 50%, however, half the people, only hold 3.2% of the US GDP. These numbers are jarring, and they're only getting worse. What I'm describing is financial Robin Hood, a negligible amount of money from the wealthy in return for the welfare of the impoverished. The rich make up the minority in this country. For the betterment of the majority, institution of higher taxes on higher income individuals is what must be done to support those who need it the most. UBI represents a teardown of the class divide. We live in a world where basic needs can be met, we just choose not to meet them. UBI plans, like the one I propose, is equality. For everybody to truly become equal in our society, programs like UBI must be implemented. The rich will claim oppression, but this sentiment is simply not true. Exploitation is exactly what they did to get this money in the first place, and what they fail to realize is having this money is a privilege. But when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. As proven with the pandemic stimulus checks, people who need the money will spend the money. This offsets any threat of inflation. In another video, I'm going to go over the impacts of how exactly this money will help those who desperately need it. Long story short, it will lift them out of poverty and allow them the prosperity of the American dream. In a world where there are winners and losers, we can all be winners. A decision will have to be made on whether the American public values aiding those in poverty more than money. But the institution of programs like universal basic income could start the journey where the people of the United States are valued more than the money they hold. And with that, I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for watching. By the way, I am just a college student home for the break, and I have some spare time on my hands, so I thought I'd get my thoughts out and maybe post them online. Let me know if you agree, disagree with me. I don't know. Really, I'm just looking for a discussion. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope my sources were cited well enough, and bye-bye.